God, who knows? Oh my goodness, wow, what a great, crazy question.
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Guys, good to see you both again. I fucking love this movie. Seriously, thank you so much. You absolutely crushed it. So thank you for giving me the time. I appreciate you.
Amazing,
So glad you liked it.
I loved it. Rob, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, Batman is a character known for having such an incredible collection of villains. So I'm curious as to how much the villain selection for this film affected your experience as Batman. Like, how differently would your experience as an actor have been if instead of the Riddler and Penguin, we got the Joker or Mr. Freeze or Two-Face?
I mean, it's amazing what Matt did. I mean, it's funny because like out of all the Riddler, how he's normally portrayed in the movies, I mean, it's not like it's any more grounded than the other villains. And suddenly Matt's like, yeah, this is the one. This is the most realistic one. But he somehow made it into this kind of Zodiac killer, serial killer, and it made total sense with the kind of world we're living in, and how Paul played it as well. It was just phenomenal.
Genius.
And I mean, it's strange to do a movie where the villain, I mean, we did very, very few, I mean, I barely even met Paul throughout this entire time. And we're like doing scenes on the phone and stuff. I mean, it's really hard to there's something kind of silly about doing an entire scene on FaceTime. And Paul was just so incredible. And did the entire thing, even when it was just my coverage. He's still in the full got saran wrap around his head, like boiling. He's like a bag of boiled shrimp.
Zoe, I was wondering if for a moment you could imagine sitting in a movie theater with Julie Newmar, Lee Merriweather, Eartha Kitt, Michelle Pfeiffer, Halle Berry, Anne Hathaway. You watch the Batman, and when it's over, lean over and go, what did you think about how I did this? What is the aspect of your performance that you would love to get their thoughts on?
Oh, goodness. That's a very scary scenario. That sounds like a literal nightmare. I mean, I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I mean, they've all, the women who I've been in touch with, Michelle and Halle, they've all been really, really supportive. And I think they, the message I seem to be getting from them is, to make it my own. And so I think the answer is to not necessarily look for their approval, but to just hope for their support.
Well, to that point, I want to ask both of you this. Whenever a new actor takes on an iconic role that's been played by other actors, the go-to question at junkets is always, did you get any advice from previous actors who played this part? And one day, many, many, many years from now, reporters are going to ask two new actors, have you spoken to Rob yet? Did you get any advice from Zoe? So even though this is just the beginning of the journey for both of you, what's the most important lesson you've learned playing these characters that in 15 or 20 years, you want to make sure the next kids know about?
Are we going to continue the theme of just telling people that they need to figure out how to go to the bathroom in the suits?
I don't know. I mean, it's like this. I don't think there's any way, especially with the bat suit. I don't know about you. Like, as soon as you put that thing on, even if it's, a new version of it, it has such a kind of totemic power, but it's kind of, it just feels incredible. And you kind of, and admittedly, you do think, how do I go to the bathroom? but that takes like a couple of minutes. You only realize that.
But then you're like, oh, that's why that's the one piece of advice I've gotten.
It's not real. Your first thought when you put it on.
No, it's your third. It's your third thought.
It is not like the sexiest advice in the world either.
No, it's real. It's real.
Guys, I could talk to you all day. I want to thank you I'm in Chicago, so I got to see them shoot the second unit stuff and was given like a piece
awesome.
of so this is actually hanging in my apartment. And so thank you for your time. And Rob, I want to say you and I have been talking since the first Twilight, dude. And I got to say, it's just such an honor to just be a part of your journey and just watch the incredible actor you've become. So just want to thank you for that and thank both of you for the time. The film is an absolute masterpiece.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys. Good to see you both. Paul, Jeffrey, it's an honor to see you guys again. How are you doing?
Yeah, all right.
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Congratulations on this. The film is an absolute masterpiece, and I've got 1,000 questions for you, so I'm just going to jump into it. And Paul, I'm actually going to start with you. I was wondering if you could imagine sitting in a movie theater with Frank Gorshin and Jim Carrey and John Astin and Corey Michael Smith, and you watch The Batman, and when it's over, you lean over and ask them, what did you think about how I did this? What is the aspect of your performance you would love to get all the other Riddlers' thoughts on?
Oh my goodness. Wow. What a great, crazy question. Oh golly. I don't know. I mean, what's so powerful about Batman and why it's been in our culture for so long, it is there to be reinterpreted. And I should say that Jim Carrey was like my hero in elementary school and middle school. So I wouldn't even want to be in the same theater with him while he watches me. I would not be able to bear it. And all those actors. So, you know, I hope that we can all enjoy each other's work because these characters deserve to be reinterpreted, and that's what we can give the audience. And I gave the audience what I have, and I know they did too, and I'm glad their work is there, and somebody else will someday. So, I don't know.
Well, what you gave was absolutely brilliant, as were you, Mr. Wright. I got to tell you, I love so much that we're getting Batman finally through the prism of this hard-boiled detective story, because so many people forget that Batman started in Detective Comics. So I'm curious, why do you think, if that's his origins, why did it take so long to really integrate the detective angle into a big screen Batman story?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we can, at times, or filmmakers at times perhaps, can get focused on the more kind of kinetic aspects of the character, on the spectacle, and we have all of that as well. But Matt really wanted to recenter this film and the Batman in his origins, which is I think brilliant, and he did it, yes, because he wanted to honor that history, but also I think because he understood that he could make a great film, a plot-driven film. And in some ways, I think he's co-opted the genre. It's a comic book movie, yes, it's a Batman movie, but as I've seen some fans say online when they've seen certain clips, it's cinema. But it's a.
I've been telling people, I was like, it's a little like Fincher's Zodiac. It's a little French Connection, and then like maybe a third Batman, which is just it's brilliant.
It's that because of this detective mystery orientation that drives this plot forward. And so, yeah, kudos to Matt for recognizing that.
Well, kudos to all of you guys, because all of you work so well together. And as we wrap up, Paul, I've got to say, I love that the Riddler is kind of framed like a serial killer. He's basically like Gotham's Zodiac killer. So when you're crafting this character, do you start with a serial killer and make him the Riddler, or do you start with the Riddler and make him a serial killer?
Neither. The first conversation that Matt Reeves and I had, was about the two sides of trauma and how Bruce Wayne is born of trauma. I mean, Batman is born of trauma, right, from his parents' death. And in this case, maybe so is the Riddler. And so that is the seed from which everything grew.
Oh, it's brilliant. Gentlemen, if you can't tell, I'm both a fan of yours and this film. It's an absolute masterpiece. It's unlike any Batman film we've ever seen in our entire lives. And seriously, I can't thank you enough for being a part of it. And more than anything, I can't thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate you.
That's cool. So nice.
Thank
you,
guys. I appreciate it. Good to see you both.
Yeah,
too, man.
Likewise.
Take care, guys. Gentlemen, I fucking love this movie so much. I love this movie, and the two of you absolutely crushed it. So seriously, thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you for having us, man.
Of course, I'm going to jump into this. And Colin, I'm going to start with you. I was wondering if you could imagine sitting in a movie theater with Burgess Meredith and Danny DeVito and Robin Lord Taylor and watching the Batman. And when it's over, lean over and ask them, what did you think about how I did this? What is the aspect of your performance?
I haven't mentioned, I've been talking about the characters that have played Penguin, and I haven't mentioned Robin Lord Taylor because I haven't seen Gotham, but I heard he's extraordinary in it.
He's incredible.
Burgess Meredith, I'm such a huge fan of. I mean, I grew up watching Adam West and Burgess Meredith and the other actors in the TV show Batman. And then Danny, who I worked with, had the pleasure of working with, is just as they say, a mensch. I don't know, man. I'd be nervous about the reactions. Danny was very kind. He sent me a text when he knew I was going to do this, which was lovely. Kind of got the green light off him. Burgess is beyond texting, of course, as we know. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'd be a bit nervous of the reactions.
Well, I think they would love it because it's a phenomenal performance, as is yours, Mr. Turturro. I'm curious, John, you and Colin are two of the only actors in the film who get scenes with both Bruce Wayne and Batman. So what's the biggest difference between acting opposite Rob as Bruce versus Rob as Batman?
Most of my scenes were as Bruce until we have our final altercation. So I never really got to act with Batman. I mean, I got to sort of fight Batman You know, a little bit. Yes. Well, yes. We have a little scene at the end. But it was, for me, it was odd when he was in the suit. I had to get used to that because you grow up with different variations of the suit. And so you have to kind of recalibrate your mind. You think, oh my God, there's the guy, you know.
And do you just have like casual conversations? Do you ever say like, so did you watch the game last night? Like what's like the weirdest
Not when he's Batman. Not when he's Batman. No.
You know, so Colin, it really seems like this movie is obviously less of an origin story for Batman and more of an origin story for his villains. And while Oz is called Penguin in this movie, I'm curious, how much more evolution do you think he's going to undergo? Like how much more Penguin does he have left to evolve into? Do you want the full-blown monocle and the top hat and the cigarette in the holder?
I don't know, man. I don't think the cigarette in the holders, you know, big studios make big decisions around such things as the presence of cigarettes in films. I fought valiantly for a cigar. I even at one stage said, I can have it unlit. Just let me have it unlit. And they were like, no. Like a bunch of 12-year-olds were going to start smoking Cuban cigars because of... But listen, I have no idea where it goes, but it, pardon the pun, it's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, the Oz that we meet hasn't embodied the energy of the Penguin that we recognize from the source comics and from previous films. So, you know, I don't know. I'll see if it goes again. I'd love to explore it because he's not an underboss. He's not a boss. He's just a soldier of Falcone at this stage, but he has great ambition and dreams of doing big things, you know.
I think I would pay to see Colin discover the cigarette holder. I'd like to see that.
That'd be a good moment, man. That'd be for
like
the
to
TV
see
show.
that.
HBO would give me the green light for that one.
Warner Brothers behind the scenes right now is going cigarette holder.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, love that. I'm going to cut you guys loose.
Interview.
Yes. You know, John, I've got to tell you, I'm loving watching you in Severance. I'm about 5 episodes into it, and it's amazing watching you get to evolve a character over multiple episodes. And Colin, and I really want to see you do that with Penguin. What if you guys had each of these characters and could evolve them over multiple episodes, multiple seasons, multiple years, like John, like you're getting the chance to do, and Colin, hopefully you get to do soon. What are aspects of them that you would like to learn about in season 4, season 5, season 6?
Well, there's always the past that's interesting, that informs the present, you know, and you know, and then where they go, and it really depends where the writers, you know, take it, you know. But you do get a chance to explore different nuances and colors of a character over a period of time.
I mean, Tim Burton's Batman got to delve in a little bit just in the initial setup of Danny DeVito's Penguin. By showing his origin as a child and how he was discarded by his parents, thrown into the river. But yeah, just what John said, you know, you'd get to really just dive into the origins and how the character came to be what we recognize him to be from years of iterations, you know.
Gentlemen, I love both of your performances. Incredible. They shot a lot of second unit stuff here in Chicago. And so I was actually given like a piece of the set, which is hanging in my apartment right now. So
that's cool.
They littered like all of the Chicago streets because one of the chase sequences in the Thompson Center where the final act takes place is here in Chicago, and these were littered all over the place. So they were just like handing them to people who were watching the second unit stuff shoot in Chicago. So this is framed in my home right now. So
nice
seriously,
catch.
You guys, it is an absolute honor to be able to speak with you. The film is a masterpiece, and I truly do appreciate your time.
Appreciate your time.
Right,
Thanks,
take
man.
care, guys. See you later. Mr. Reeves, I got to tell you, I actually went and watched you guys film all the second unit stuff in Chicago, and was actually given a little piece of the movie, which I have framed in my home, which I'm a big fan of this. So I don't know if you had any involvement in this, but I'm just going to say that you did. But seriously, congratulations on this. The film is an absolute masterpiece. I'm just going to jump into this, you know, because I am talking to you from Chicago. I know you guys shot a lot of second unit stuff here, but it really feels like our city is all over this movie, particularly with the Thompson Center, which is kind of the centerpiece of the final act. So I'm curious, you guys shot a lot of stuff overseas. So what was it about Chicago that made you want to dedicate an entire aspect of Gotham to?
Well, you know, I wanted Gotham to feel like an American city. And but I wanted it to feel like an American city that was not completely identifiable. So yes, there's lots of Chicago, but hopefully, obviously, if you know the Thompson Center, you know what we're doing. Now we've done some CG to alter it, and parts of what are there have been comped in from actually stuff that we shot in the UK. And it's meant to be our sort of Gotham Square Garden, which sounds vaguely like New York. So it's sort of an amalgam of a lot of American cities. But you know, we really wanted a foundation of kind of like Gothic architecture and beautiful architecture, and Chicago had so much beautiful stuff for us. So there's a lot of interstitial detail that kind of weaves the whole picture together. We shot a lot of it in Liverpool and then added the kind of taller structures that you might see. We wanted that kind of very Gothic, old architecture, but then we wanted to put the newer architecture over it. And so, but there's lots of Chicago, a lot.
Well, it's blended so well that there were so many scenes where I was like, was that in Liverpool? Like there's a scene where early in the film, it looks like Batman is on the blue line, but I stalked you guys for like 2 weekends. So like, was that Chicago or was that Liverpool?
So here's what's crazy. We scouted to Chicago and we were like, oh my God, we're going to do that. We were like on Wabash and we did the whole, we were on the train and they were going to give us control of the train. And then, the pandemic hit. So it's a crazy thing. So we had to be really targeted about what we do. And I was really heartbroken because to me, that's one of the key things. It's the opening section of the movie is that idea of the L train making its way around Gotham. And so what we did was we ended up, here's a crazy thing. There was a car that they were going to let us have. So we used the car in Chicago to shoot the exteriors. And then we actually, to complete specification, rebuilt part of that station there on Wabash, and then actually they sold us the car. So the interior was shot on a stage, and then we reproduced part of the station in London, in Leavesden.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, well, I don't want to geek up about Chicago the entire
right,
time.
cool.
Before I cut you loose, I love the prism through which you're seeing these iconic Batman villains. The way that we're looking at the Riddler, kind of like the Zodiac Killer, is genius. Who do you think, of all the iconic Batman villains, who would be the greatest challenge to see through the kind of prism that you're looking at this Gotham in? Who would be the hardest challenge to put into your Gotham?
Well, I mean, look, I'll talk about this movie. For me, obviously, it's the Riddler because the Riddler, there was a specific thing that I wanted to do, which was when he starts writing him these messages, it's very unnerving because the whole point of being Batman is that you want to come out of the shadows and be anonymous. And the idea that you could lose your anonymity means you would lose that power because the fear that he's trying to create in the criminal element is all based on the idea that this guy could appear from anywhere and who is he? So that communication becomes very frightening. And then as you start to see the two of them are almost echoes of each other, they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. And that aspect, I think, makes it very, very chilling. And what Paul does when he's playing, I mean, he's fantastic as the Riddler. So I'll just start by saying, let's say the Riddler.
Well, every person watching this is going to pick apart every word you said. And you said chilling, so that basically means Mr. Freeze confirmed for the Batman Part 2. So that's what I'm going to run with that.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Reeves, it is an honor to speak with you, sir. This film is a masterpiece. And thank you for being a part of my apartment, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy that. That's cool.
Will do. It's good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.